All right, welcome back, everybody, and welcome to our next deep dive session. This is Accelerating Service Provider Deployment of SASE Services. And we're very excited. We have three industry experts joining us once again today for this discussion. We have Tom Yin, Head of Networking SASE Business Development with Equinix, Sharon Rozov, vCPE Solutions Lead with RAD, and Charles Eckel, Principal Engineer, Global Technology Standards with Cisco. I'd also like to note Charles serves as Digital Services Committee Co-Chair for MEF. Welcome to all of you, and a big thank you so much for being a part of the MEF Infinite Edge series and for being a part of this discussion. We are thrilled to have you here with us today. We're going to start generally here. What is the role of communications service providers in providing SASE solutions, and what do you see as the ultimate end goal? Let's start off with Sharon, and then let's go to you, Tom.
I think service providers are in an excellent position to host SASE security services. They can leverage their network facilities, network locations to enhance business services offerings. They own the network edge where broadband access networks are aggregated, and they can basically provide SLA guaranteed access to the SASE location, and from there on-ramp traffic onto multiple clouds.
Yeah, so further to what Sharon says, really I think the industry is at a pivoting point. I think primarily because previously we have the opportunity now to actually turn a monolithic, centralized, hub-and-spoke, data center-centric architecture really into a control and yet distributed with endpoint protection at the edge. So really what this gives the opportunity is for a service provider to be able to bring all of the various different technologies of suppliers, the platform providers, as well as enterprises, even closer together, being able to provide that shared managed infrastructure so that they can actually collaborate to be able to solve real-world business problems.
Thank you both. All right, now let's talk about the role your company plays in the SASE market. Charles, let's start with you, and then we'll go to Sharon and then Tom.
Okay, sure. Thanks. Really the goal for Cisco is exactly that stated in the title. We want to accelerate service provider deployment of SASE services, knowing that Cisco will play a significant role in a large percentage of those deployments. So Cisco is a provider of SASE services and of products and solutions that service providers use to offer their own SASE services. And of course, Cisco also provides much of the network gear that forms the critical infrastructure over which SASE services are delivered. So Cisco Sd-Wan and security services such as Duo and Umbrella, they can be used standalone, but are often used as part of a larger SASE services offering of service providers. So for Cisco, the goal is really to grow the market for SASE services and to accelerate their deployment.
Thanks. RAD has recently introduced SD Cloud Access. It is business access, multi-link business access solution that provides intelligent traffic distribution across multiple links. It is a dual-ended solution. It is comprised of a disaggregated CPE that runs on a variety of hardware options with virtualization, and a software-based cloud gateway that is typically hosted in service provider POPs. With this solution, basically we allow service providers to introduce value-added services both at their customer edge as well as at their network edge, where they would typically host SASE security services, and then we'll allow them to land all the traffic into these network POPs. We took this solution even one step further and designed the solution in a way that most of the intelligence of the solution is hosted at the cloud gateway, the hub, leaving the CPEs simple and low cost.
And from an Equinix standpoint, we really bring all of the best components that from the likes of Cisco and RAD to come together, right? So Equinix provides the infrastructure that allows for these different appliances to be hosted at Equinix, to be able to allow the various different service provider last mile services to use us as the meet me room. And we want to continue with that energy and collaboration between the service providers, the suppliers of technologies, the cloud providers to come together. So at Equinix, we actually allow for these appliances to be deployed. We can also enable a lot of the virtual network functions to be also consumed as a service, keeping up with the cloud speed. And on top of it, we've also made a recent acquisition in Metal. It's called Packet, which we have now rebranded called Metal, which allows a bare metal as a service to be deployed and be able to be consumed directly also on a monthly basis. So we provide a wide range, Jeff, in terms of the various different possibilities of deployments, because I think there is no one size fits all in a lot of these infrastructure needs that various different enterprises will need.
Great, thank you. Charles, we're coming to you for this next one. The topic of SASE standardization has come up in earlier sessions. Now, from your perspective as a co-chair of MEF's Digital Services Committee, it would be great if you could comment on the importance of standardization and say a word or two about the process of bringing a standard to market. Thoughts?
Yeah, well, standards are near and dear to me. And for SASE, standardization is really key to growing the market and accelerating the deployment of SASE services. Case in point, if you just look at MEF Sd-Wan standardization and the role that's played in rapidly accelerating the Sd-Wan market. Now, if you think back a bit to before COVID started and probably a bit before that, there was great excitement in the market around Sd-Wan, but actual deployments, they were slowed by confusion as to exactly what an Sd-Wan service was, and a wide variety of vendor products claiming to provide Sd-Wan solutions. So MEF recognized that and addressed it head on, creating MEF-CECP, which formally defines a MEF Sd-Wan service and what it means to be a provider or a subscriber of such a service. This includes common terminology that everyone now uses to describe Sd-Wan, and that really unlocked the market for Sd-Wan services and established MEF as the place for Sd-Wan service standardization. So now with SASE, I'd say we're in a very similar state. Gartner did a great job of coining the term SASE and capturing really the minds of the industry. And now MEF is formally defining SASE services. And there, that'll unlock the huge potential of the SASE services market. There's work in progress, and some of you may have already seen MEF-W 117. That's the work in progress SASE standard, and it provides clarity and consistency through the formal definition of what SASE services are, and it leverages the MEF SD-WAN and application security standards, and also pulls in the work going on in MEF around zero trust.
Love that answer. Thank you so much for all that, Charles. Let's talk now about challenges. What are some of the key challenges for service providers rolling out SASE services, and what steps can be taken to address those challenges? Let's go to you, Tom, and then we'll hear from Charles again.
Sounds good, Jeff. So the real challenge, I think, behind SASE is to actually minimize disruption, right? SASE is actually a journey. This is not a one-stop shop immediately from the get-go. It's a journey towards SASE. So minimizing that disruption and being able to enter, into the journey and starting with that mindset, really, I think what enterprise needs to do is identify what are its major pain points today, right? With those major points, now and then secondly, you need to also identify what is available within your infrastructure, right? With those two main pivoting points, you now have a starting ground to which you could actually be able to deploy, and start to develop a SASE understanding behind how you will actually merge towards that ultimate goal. So at Equinix, what we do is we want to make sure that we provide that opportunity to be able to minimize that disruption, right? The disruption towards your infrastructure to transform into a real digital infrastructure that is ready to serve the world, right? And from our perspective, we give you choice in terms of, again, deploying your application, minimizing that disruption. We give you the option to be able to provide and install virtual functions to keep up with the latest technology in terms of cloud services. We also allow you to be able to consume bare metal as a service, to be able to install, your unique customization that is part of your business that you would want to continue to nurture and grow with at the same time. So we have a lot of these different options. Ultimately, Jeff, I think what we want to provide from an Equinix standpoint is the number of options to grow so that you could actually adapt and adjust accordingly as your business actually continues to evolve.
Yeah, I think, Tom, you really nailed it there. And, the way that MEF is defining SASE services and framing it in the context of services that already exist and have been defined, like MEF Sd-Wan services. And I mentioned the work going on in application security for Sd-Wan and zero trust. I think that's going to help a lot because it's not like this is something entirely new. It's sort of a new way of framing the problem space and looking at and putting together really a lot of the components and technology that's already out there. And of course, bringing in some new elements as well, but it's not like a whole forklift upgrade here. I mean, you can have a continuity. And, just like I mentioned the Sd-Wan standardization, the way that reduced confusion in the market, and even going back to carrier Ethernet and what MEF did there, I think the MEF-CECP standardization is going to really help a big deal.
Great. Tom, as Charles said, you really nailed the last one here, so I'm coming back to you here for this next one. What's the biggest question you get regarding SASE?
I think we get a number of different questions, Jeff, but the two that actually comes up to mind often is, what exactly is SASE, right? That often actually comes up, right? People they've heard about it. They know that this is a term that was coined by Gartner. It sounds really great, right? But how do I actually then get started? How do I get started on that journey towards SASE? So that's probably the two biggest questions that we often get is, what is SASE and how do I actually get started, right? So you mentioned this before is, how do people get started? And I think we continue to be able to advise our enterprise customers as well as service provider to sort of say, look, the journey is a long journey. This may evolve over several years. This is not a big bang, immediately you could turn on and like a light switch where you're immediately SASE enabled. I think often people says that, yes, I have a SASE solution, but that is a start towards your journey to getting to your eventual, infrastructure need.
I'd like to hear from all three of you now for this next one. How is SD-WAN impacted by the introduction of SASE? Sharon, we're going to start off with you, and then let's hear from Charles and Tom.
So SD-WAN really started as with the motivation of decoupling, the service from the transport network, and was designed for business customers. Hence, was built as an end-to-end, over-the-top solution. And for me, it is really strange that service providers are adopting SD-WAN with this same architecture, basically, over-the-topping their own network, not giving themselves the opportunity to leverage their network sites and build new services. Instead, I would expect SD-WAN I would expect service providers to build intelligent, multi-link business access options that would be integrated into their network and their VPN network and provide access to public and private clouds. Also, with this, they can leverage their network sites and offer services, SASE and others. and also, allow SD-WAN to access multiple SASE options, even not, locking themselves down into one SASE vendor, because SASE, as was said here, is just a term. It's it could host or it could stand for multiple functionalities behind it. So I would expect service providers to maybe host different SASE vendors and provide different solution for each business customer.
Yeah, and I expect that Sassy will really expand the role, I'd say, of SD-WAN, bringing SD-WAN into conversations and service offerings that were primarily focused on security, and now adding networking and application awareness into the conversation. So MEF-CECP service definition, within that definition, SD-WAN is an optional component. And it can be used to meet many of the requirements of a given SASE service. But those same requirements can, of course, be met through other means as well. But my expectation, I would say, is that you'll see SD-WAN playing a key role in most SASE service offerings.
Yeah, and Jeff, I think further to what Sharon and Charles has said, I think ultimately at the end of the day, we want to give control back to the enterprises. Right, we want to give that control back to the DevOps of those enterprises, so that they will be able to get access to how the network could be designed to meet the needs of the application. Ultimately, that is the end goal of what we want to be able to enable. Right, so there'll be additional policies that will be introduced as part of the MEF standards that will go into how SASE will ultimately define. And SD-WAN will play a critical role in terms of being able to orchestrate all these various different services to come together. We know that enterprises today use multiple different service providers, whether they will use a zero trust network access from a lot of providers out there, or CDN services. All of these services with SD-WAN will ultimately have to be able to share those controls. And that sharing of control is something that I think from an orchestration engine point of view, it's that ability to be able to pass on from one orchestrator to the next so that we know exactly where the controls end and start at the same time.
Got it. Thank you. Sharon, next one is for you. What is the role of SASE in IoT backhaul services?
It's a very interesting question. When we talk about SASE, we talk about identity-based zero trust security for all endpoints, not only end users, but also IoT devices. And currently, with our IoT gateways, we provide cloud access, IoT backhaul to clouds end-to-end. And I think there's an opportunity here for service providers to provide SASE services for businesses that deploy IoT gateways and basically land IoT traffic in their network and then on-ramp it to the cloud. Think, for example, about a smart city use case where there are plenty of sensors for water and commute, and there are CCTV cameras, and you would be able to hang your IoT gateway on a lamp pole and host a LoRa gateway so you can aggregate all those sensors to the IoT gateway, and then from there you can send the traffic to the service provider network, apply security, and then send it onward to the cloud. So I think this is an excellent use case to look at.
Great. Thank you, Sharon. We are just about out of time. I'm going to squeeze in one final question here. Charles, this one is for you. Bring us home. What is the current state of SASE standardization in MEF and the best way to get engaged?
Thanks for asking this one. So really, MEF established itself in the SASE space with a great white paper on the SASE services framework, and that came out in the summer of 2020. And very shortly after that, that's when the project to formally define MEF-CECP services started. And the working draft for that, I think I mentioned it before, was MEF W117. The W indicates it's a work in progress. And it's due to go out for its first call for comments probably later this month. And there's weekly project calls. Those are on Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific. And any MEF members welcome to join and contribute. And so we'd love to have you there. The current draft, it really does a great job of laying out the foundation of what will ultimately be a comprehensive standard that leverages the other great work that MEF is and continues to do around SD-WAN and application security and zero trust. So now is a great time to get involved, join the weekly calls, participate in the call for comments, and even join the next quarterly meeting, which is a great way to meet everyone working in that space.
Hey, Jeff, if I may add to what Charles said.
Yeah, please, Tom.
So I actually participate in that W117 Wednesday morning call that Charles mentioned. And what I saw is a true collaboration among the service providers, the technology vendors, platform providers to actually come together and really discuss, the true essence of, some of the terminologies, for example, bring a level of normalization behind some of the wordings, right? Often in the industry, we use, very generic terms, and those terms are often misconstrued when it's applied to, a particular context. So that initial, just normalization of understanding with one another is actually something that I saw as being somewhat enlightening. I think, it really truly brings out, a way for you to be able to communicate between different industries, between different technologies and how it's actually applied. So that was something that is truly eye-opening. We are coming out very shortly with the various different specifications associated to how do you actually define some of these policies that was actually mentioned. So stay tuned for that, and I think you'll see some real good guidance, I think, that will be coming out from MEF.
I should join you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you so much, Tom. Thank you for that the insight and perspective there. That's fantastic. Love hearing all of that. Thank you to all three of you. That's going to do it. Our time has come to a close. We really appreciate you being here with us, taking the time to share your expertise with all of us. And to everyone watching, we hope you enjoyed this discussion. Lots more coming your way, of course. This is the MEF Infinite Edge series. Bye for now.